My name is Stephen Mason, and before faith or change or any of that, I want to tell you my story and where I come from. I was born in Beaumont, California, to two parents who were both deep in addiction. They were addicted to methamphetamine, and we used to travel from drug house to drug house. I was exposed to things that I shouldn't have been exposed to at that age, different types of drug use, sexual activity, but that's what comes with that environment. I have a twin brother whose name is James, and I also have two younger sisters, but I don't know them because they were given up for adoption when I was really little because my parents wanted them to have a better life than we had, or at least that's what I was told by my Aunt Rita. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit up to the age of 4 when everything started to shift in my life. I was at another random drug house, but my grandparents showed up. And I thought they were there to visit. Obviously, I was a little kid. Saw my grandparents, got excited, seen them for about 10, 15 minutes, and next thing you know, they're gone. And so is my brother. So I didn't realize what happened. I just knew my grandparents were gone, and so is my brother. Well, a whole another year goes by, and I'm still with my biological parents, hopping around from drug house to drug house. And we wound up at my Aunt Tanya's house, who is also a drug addict. My parents were gone. I was playing on the living room floor when my Aunt Rita, who is my mom's sister, she was 17 at this time, showed up. She comes in the door. I'm playing on the living room floor, sick with the measles. My Aunt Tanya's passed out on the couch, and my aunt kind of like scans the room, and you could tell she's furious because she snatched me up by my arm and said, "We're leaving." She didn't say anything to my Aunt Tanya. She just took me out, put me in a car, and took me over to the local hospital so I could get treated for the measles. She's talking to the doctors, describing my living conditions because they wanted to know. And after she was done with that, she sat down and she grabbed my hand and told me that she was not going to take me back there, that she wouldn't allow me to be in that type of living condition again. And she took me home to her house with her then 16-year-old boyfriend, Jamie. And they decided they were going to raise me. And that is when she explained what happened with my grandparents and my brother, that they decided they were going to raise him. And the reason they didn't take me is because they couldn't financially afford to take care of both of us. So it didn't really mean anything to me at that time. I was a young kid. I just knew, okay, my brother's not here. He's over there with them. So we grew up in very different households. I don't really know my brother in depth as a person, like people would normally think when they hear twin brother. It wasn't like that because my grandparents didn't have a good relationship with my Aunt Rita either because she was with my Uncle Jamie. And when I would go over there to visit, I can feel like the tension. They treated me more like I was James's friend as opposed to his brother. But the way they treated him was out of love. And I could just see it. My grandpa absolutely loved my brother. Over there felt weird and kind of off. They always wanted me to do whatever James wanted to do, not James do also what Stephen wants to do as far as the activities. My grandpa was very much into sports. He liked basketball and baseball and football. So my brother took to that because that's what my grandpa liked. So he would sign my brother up for all these sports activities. And I didn't play sports because Jamie did not like sports. He said sports were for wussies. I rode dirt bikes and water skied and wakeboard and rode BMX. So we were more of the extreme sports kind of family. And I could tell at a young age that my Uncle Jamie did not like my grandpa Jim, whose name is James. I think that's why he also took to my brother a little more. I don't know. I didn't really get to know the guy. I'll get into that later. So what wound up happening when my brother wanted to spend time with me is he would have to come to my house because my aunt didn't want me over there. She said that she wanted to try to eliminate all biasness as far as my interaction with my brother went. So when he would come over to my house, we'd be out in the yard playing, or at least she thought. Really, we were out there arguing. We didn't really get along. It was more of a forced connection. They wanted us to be brothers. They wanted us to love each other because her boyfriend Jamie was also a twin, and they were bonded. Him and Joel had a fabulous bond, and that's what I wanted as a kid. I mean, who doesn't want to have a strong bond with your brother, right? But I didn't have that. So James and I just slowly started dwindling down. I might have hung out with him 6 months or 6 times out of the year. And then eventually that dwindled down to 2 times. I remember going to school dances, and my brother would be out there, on the dance floor, kind of doing his thing. And we might say, "What's up?" That's literally the type of friendship we had at school. When I would arrive, he would already be there because my grandpa would drop him off early so he could play sports before school was actually called and the bell rung. He'd be out there playing basketball with his friends, and I went over there to play dodgeball. We wouldn't even really interact unless we got into a fight, because in my home, Jamie was a very masculine, dominant man who taught that fighting was cool. That was something to look up to and aspire to be, as a good fighter, a tough guy, someone that doesn't cry about anything, that pushes through. He instilled those characteristics in me as a young boy. I remember I was 7 years old, and so was my brother, obviously, and he made us go out into the front yard, put on boxing gloves, and kind of duke it out. And we didn't want to at that time, but it didn't matter, because if you didn't do what Jamie said, he was going to beat your butt. So we did, even though we're both out there crying and swinging at each other because Jamie's yelling at us. Eventually, after he makes you do that kind of thing 6 or 7 times, you start learning. And we learned how to bob, we learned how to weave, we learned what to do to become somewhat of a good fighter because it was forced on us. The sad part is we had to learn against each other. So we would box each other quite frequently, and then we started to like it because Jamie enjoyed when we would actually get involved and listen to his coaching tactics while we were out there fighting or boxing in the front yard. And eventually that became part of my identity. I needed to be a good fighter because of all the conversations that were had in my house were about fighting. Jamie and his brother Joel would talk about their stories and how they were in high school and the different fights that they would get in and people that they would knock out, and their older brother Darren, who happened to be my dad's best friend, how many fights they got in and how they would go crash parties. And my dad was a Golden Glove boxer, so he was able to knock out several people at a time. So just think, as a young boy, I'm listening to all this and I'm thinking, okay, so that's what being cool is. You got to be able to fight. You go to parties. You got to be able to stand out amongst the masses of these men and dominate them and not show your feelings, not get emotional. Don't cry about anything. Literally, I would come home from school and walk in the door, and my Uncle Jamie would hit me right in the leg. He called it a Charlie horse. Well, your whole leg goes numb. And I couldn't feel myself, so I'd reach for the wall and kind of lean on the wall. And the first time he did it, it hurt really bad. I was getting ready to just start bawling. And tears came, but he told me that if I continued to cry, he was going to give me something to cry about. So I had to suppress my emotions. I mean, I was a little kid. I was only 8, 9 years old when this happened. And it continued to happen until I would come in the door and he would hit me and my leg would go numb, and I would get so used to that feeling that I would just hold the wall. I wouldn't cry at all until I could get the feeling back in my leg, and then I'd walk to my room. But those are the things that he instilled in me. And when I would get into a fight in school, if I lost, he told me he would whoop my butt. But if I won, it was rewarded. I didn't get in trouble for being suspended. I didn't get in trouble for none of that. Matter of fact, as I got older and I got into my 5th grade school year, which I got in a lot of trouble that year, not completing schoolwork, he told me, if anybody talks crap about you and you hear about it, you just walk up and hit them. Don't worry about the first punch. Don't worry about none of that. It's not self-defense. You just walk up and you hit them. And he's like, you listen to me, because once you get into junior high or high school, you're going to have your reputation for yourself and you're not going to have to fight. Well, he was right, because I listened to him and I didn't have any trouble when I got into junior high or high school, but I got into a lot of trouble in middle school. Out in California, middle school was fourth, fifth, and sixth grade. And I got into a lot of trouble because of the things that he was instilling in me. And my brother happened to talk a lot of crap, and he was in sports. So if anybody talked crap about my brother or my drug addict mom, because mama jokes were a big thing back then, I was going to fight. So I got into a lot of trouble and had to get expelled from the elementary school I was at there to go into another elementary school. It was like a second chance school and do good there, which you wouldn't get expelled for if you fought there. It was kind of like known for that. But that's the type of lifestyle that I was living. So it was odd for me to really know how to talk through my feelings, because if it wasn't aggression, then there wasn't nothing really to talk about. If it was sadness, it wasn't allowed to be conveyed in my household. Jamie was not the type of man that tried to cultivate you understanding your emotions and help you walk through it. No, you push through it and you keep moving, because that's what a man does. Now, my Aunt Rita, she was pretty awesome. She was like my mom, and she might not have said I loved you a lot, but she cared. I was more introverted type of kid because of the chaos that I grew up in. I didn't really know how to express myself. I was shy. I didn't know who to trust. I was very skeptical of people and friends. I might have had three friends, Robbie, Joey, and Gordon. Gordon was my third friend. Like, that's it. My brother, he was real extrovert. He had tons of friends. He was in sports, a completely different kid. But needless to say, Rita showed that she cared by asking me, "Hey, are you okay? What's going on with school?" Like, she would try to pull the information out of me and to get me to interact with her. But I was so young, I didn't know how to articulate the way that I felt. However, I could feel that she loved me because she's asking me these questions. So I really, really appreciated her being in my life and trying to guide me to go to the right path. She was my best friend at the time, and I'm pretty sure I was hers. You know, we would ride around on Saturday mornings doing chores. This is how I learned about budgeting at a young age, because my aunt, she would take me around to pay the bills and tell me all the gossip from all the females in the family. You know, I grew up in the Walls family, and they were big. There was at least 25, 30 of us within the family, and they were all about fighting. If you weren't a good fighter, you weren't basically part of the Walls family. So that became part of my identity. I started to wear that, embrace that. This is what we do. This is who we are. This is how you're supposed to behave. You don't let anybody say anything bad about you. You don't let anybody say anything bad about you or the people that you love. And I started attaching myself to that identity, which turned out to be very, very bad in later years. Now I want to talk about my fifth grade year and how that started to transform my relationship at home. I didn't really love Jamie. I was more of afraid of him and wanted to earn his respect by being a good fighter, by riding dirt bikes well and not being scared to climb mountains, by getting out there and staying on the wakeboard and listening to his instructions. Just whatever he told me to do, I wanted to do that thing so he would in turn be proud of me. That way I wouldn't get in trouble. It was definitely a lot of fear there. But my fifth grade school year, I had a teacher, Miss Ray. I will never forget her because I did not like her at all. And I wasn't a dumb kid, because the year before that, I got straight A's. I might have got in trouble for fighting, but I wasn't stupid. Anyway, I got into Miss Ray's class, and just something about her, the way that she taught, I don't know. I also didn't try to figure it out. I just remember I wasn't learning, and I was having a hard time. I didn't like any of the kids in the class. So I told my Aunt Rita this, and she in turn talked to Jamie, and then Jamie came in my room and basically laid down the ground rules. He didn't care how I felt. He didn't care that I didn't like how she taught. I better get good grades or he was going to whip my butt. Well, needless to say, I was grounded for pretty much that entire year. And throughout that year, I obviously got into my own head because I felt like they didn't love me. I was a young kid. I didn't get to do anything. I was grounded. I came home. I had to do chores. But throughout that grounding process, my uncle, several times, he would come home from work or before work at 4 or 5 in the morning, he would lift the blanket off of me while I was sleeping and whip me. No warning, no nothing. So I'm a little kid and he's ripping the blanket off me and just whipping me with his belt. That's a horrible way to wake up. And then if I cried, especially if I cried loudly, he would tell me to stop crying and he'd give me something more to cry about. So I had to suppress my emotions while he's whipping me, which is crazy to think about now that I'm a grown man with kids. But that's what he did to me. So eventually that fear started to turn into hatred. Like I really started to despise Jamie. And I think he knew it, especially when he would say, this is going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt you. And bow, bow. Like, come on, really? It's not hurting you at all. It might hurt you because you don't want to be in here whipping me and you'd rather be doing something else, is what I would think as a kid. But now I kind of understand it because I have kids. Anyway, he would instill those types of emotions in me to where I had to suppress them, right? I had to not act how I truly felt, nor talk about it. He could care less how I felt. So I would just be stuck in my room pretty much all day long for that entire year. They would even leave to trips. They would go to Lake Havasu for the weekend. I was stuck at home. They went to Supercross. I was stuck at home. Dirt bike riding, motocross was huge in our family. Billy was amateur pro at the time, and Darren went pro, his older brother. So they lived and breathed dirt bike riding, motocross, extreme sports, but they left me in the home. And I remember they were gone. So obviously I wasn't staying in my room. I'm just sitting on the couch, looking through the blinds out the window, watching the cars go by, thinking, where the hell are my parents at? Where's my brother? Like, where are my sisters? Why am I here? How did this happen to me? I even thought about running away. I didn't because I didn't have a plan, but I thought about it. It's like, this isn't the place that I'm supposed to be in. I just don't feel right. They don't even care about what it is that I'm going through because Rita stopped asking me that year because I didn't do good in school. So it affected like my whole family dynamic at home. And I knew I affected them because I would walk around. I guess I was moping because my uncle would slap me in the back of the head and say, stop moping around, boy. You did this to yourself. So it was even more uncomfortable than it was before. And at the time, my mom was just getting off of drugs. So my Aunt Rita was allowing her to see me. This is like mid 5th grade year. My Aunt Rita was allowing her to see me over the weekend. And slowly that progressed to 3 or 4 days at a time. I was able to stay with my mom. Well, fast forward to the end of the 5th grade year, and the principal wants to have a meeting with me and my aunt. So we go into the principal's office. I'm already mad. I don't want to be in the principal's office. I'm a young kid. That means you're in trouble. So I know nothing good is going to come of this, at least in my mind. I'm going to go home and I'm going to be in trouble. Needless to say, the principal liked me. She told my aunt that I was not going to be held back, that I was too smart to be held back. And she wanted to know what was going on because this isn't the type of behavior that she expected from me. So my aunt started talking to her about everything that she's trying to do at home to figure out what it is that's going on with me, besides actually sitting down and trying to understand what it is that I was feeling. That was not part of the conversations that were had at home. It was more like, why aren't you doing this? And this is what you need to do. And if you don't do it, you're in trouble. But anyway, they started talking and my mind just went off. I'm a kid thinking about how I could be at home, how I could be out there riding my bike, where I wish I was, where is my brother and my sisters again. I always think about where my parents are. I hated the fact that I was in this stupid principal's office. And then finally, I tuned back into what they were saying because the reaction from the principal was very dramatic. Like she was about to cry. And my aunt was telling her about my parents and why I was with her and how they were drug addicts. And that actually made me mad. I was mad that my aunt was telling the principal about my parents, and I felt like the principal was judging me and my parents. That wasn't the case. She was actually empathetic for me. So then I blanked back out and was thinking about how this woman, who is the principal, shouldn't know anything about my parents, and how could my Aunt Rita do that, and blah, 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 going through all these emotions in my head. And the principal told my aunt that they're not going to hold me back. As long as I go to sixth grade and I can maintain a B average, I'll be fine. So, needless to say, I went to the sixth grade, went home, and she told me I was still grounded for the summer because I technically did not pass the fifth grade, that I need to prove to her that I was going to do good my sixth grade school year. Well, me and my mom had been bonding a little bit because I was starting to see her. And when I saw her, it was good. It was happy. It's my mom. She's taken us out to do, I say us because every now and then it would be me and my brother. She would take us out to get frozen yogurt. And that was one of the fondest memories that I have with her and my brother. And we loved it. We would just eat the yogurt and talk, and she would want to know about my future, what I saw for my future, who I wanted to be, and what I thought was cool. And the whole conversation was centered around me and my brother to get to know us. So it was fun. Well, fast forward 2 months into my sixth grade school year, I was doing very well. I love my teacher. She was amazing. And I had A's and B's, so my aunt told me that I was off grounding. But I still was kind of moping around the house. Jamie didn't like it. She didn't like it. I could feel it. The vibe was off, especially when I would come back home from spending time with my mom. And I woke up late one morning, and she was furious. I woke up late, so I didn't have time to clean my room. But I got up, I took a shower, I got ready for school, and then she comes from her room over into mine, and she's pissed because my bed wasn't made, my room wasn't clean to her standards. It was 7 a.m, but she was furious. She said, "You need to clean your room or you're going to be grounded," and she storms off to the other end of the house where her room was located. So I'm scrambling. I'm trying to make the bed and clean my room up as fast as I can. I kind of just shoved everything under the bed and shoved everything into the closet, and then boom, made the bed. So I made it. But I was walking out of my room, and when you come out of my room, you turn right, and there's like this big long hallway. I'm trying to paint this picture for you guys. But you turn right, and there's this big long hallway, and if you make a left, there's a living room. And then you go through the living room to go out the front door. But the big long hallway leads to the other end of the house, which was where her room was located. And so I'm coming through the hallway, I make a right, and I'm looking down to the end of the hallway where her room is, and she comes storming out. She's coming directly at me. So I'm kind of bracing myself. I'm like, oh man, is she going to smack me? What's going to happen? Well, she stops about 3 feet in front of me, and she says, "Do you want to go live with your mom?" And I just froze. I didn't know what to say. I'm a kid, so like all this stuff is going on in my head. Do I want to live with my mom? Why would she ask me that? Like, what is happening? She's really mad right now. Before I can even answer, she said, "Okay, you can go live with your mom." And she stormed off. So I'm like, what just happened? I didn't say anything. I just continued walking through the living room, went out the door into the car. And I'm sitting in the car waiting on her. And she comes out the house, and she was like, "So I knew that you would want to live with your mom because when you go see your mom, I know it's all about fun, but that's not the life that you're going to have." And I still have yet to say anything. I mean, I'm a 12-year-old kid at this time. Didn't even understand what it was that she was offering to me, like the actual repercussions of making that decision. So she's telling me how my mom is not going to be able to offer the life that her and Jamie can offer me because they make more money than she does, and I'm going to be unhappy there. And what if she gets back on drugs? And she's literally just telling me all this negativity right before school. So I go to school, and I really didn't even think about it. I didn't know how to analyze the situation. I just knew she was mad. She offered me to go live with my mom, and then she made the decision for me. I didn't know what was going to happen once I got out of school, but I was so used to the chaos in my life that I wasn't scared. I just knew they were mad again. I just went through a whole year of them being mad at me. So they're mad again for whatever I did, not making the bed. Who knows at this point? I didn't really know what led up to her having that outburst that morning. But I went to school. I finished the school day. I get out of school and my aunt picks me up. So I figured, okay, everything's okay. Well, it's real quiet. She didn't ask me how my day was. She didn't ask anything. I didn't want to be the first one to start the conversation because I knew she was mad at me. So I get into the vehicle and we drive home. And as soon as we get out of the car, it's maybe 15 minutes away from school, she tells me to start packing. So now I have to start packing my bags. And I said, why? She said, you're going to live with your mom. You said you wanted to live with your mom. And I still didn't say anything. I just looked at her and I said, okay. And so I went into my room and I started packing. And I can't believe to this day that she would pose that kind of a question to a 12-year-old little boy. I had no idea what was happening. I didn't even get to answer because if I would have gotten the chance to answer, I would have said no because I didn't want to hurt my Aunt Rita's feelings. I loved my Aunt Rita more than I loved my mom, more than I had fun with my mom. I loved Rita. That was my mom. And I could see the hurt when she was asking me the question. I knew she was frustrated. I knew she wasn't happy with me, but I definitely wouldn't have made the decision. I just wouldn't have. But anyway, she did that. And now it's like a little bit of pride and frustration kicked in. My ego, I'm going to go then. I'm going to go path and do what you said. You made the decision for me kind of thing was what I was saying in my head. So I went in my room and I'm packing. And I remember just shoving my stuff into my backpack. Rita brings over a small suitcase. I didn't have much. They weren't, rich. I might have had 7 pairs of clothes, 2 pairs of shoes, and that's it. So I could fit everything in my backpack. I didn't have any type of gaming console or anything like that was going with me. I packed up my stuff, and she said my mom would be there in an hour, that I could go play, that I'm not grounded. She said she hoped that I enjoyed my new life, right? And walked out. So I'm like, okay, like I don't know what's happening, but apparently I'm going to live with my mom. She's very, very mad at me, and this is what's going to happen. So I didn't question any of it. I didn't combat it or nothing. I went outside and played like a little boy. I was 12 years old. I didn't know how that was going to impact the rest of my life. And I wound up playing outside in the backyard. My mom shows up. I can hear her. She comes up in her little car, beep, beep. And so I run around to the front yard. I tell my mom hi. I'm all excited. I hug her and kiss her. And then she tells me to go back to playing. She's going to go talk to my Aunt Rita. So they stayed talking for about an hour or so. And then she came out to get me. Told me, let's go. We're leaving. So I get in the car. My mom's super pumped. I'm super pumped. I said bye to my Aunt Rita. I hugged her. I kissed her. She was crying and said that she loved me and went back in the house. So I got in the car and we're driving about 10 minutes away to my mom's little townhome that she was staying in. And I was as happy as can be. I wasn't grounded. My mom, at least what I experienced yet, was never mad at me. So I'm free. And I'm actually with my mom. In my mind, how could my mom not really love me? She has to love me, right? By default. At least that's what I thought as a kid. So I was on cloud 9 at the time. Anyway, we go into the townhome and she says, shows me the old guest room that she had is my room now. And she says I can paint the room any color that I wanted. And I thought I was good to go. I was so happy. Life kind of went on like normal. I would go to school, come back from school. I had to ride the bus now. I wasn't getting dropped off by my aunt anymore. But that was cool. I was around other kids that, because of the area that we were in, who also had single parents. So it almost felt like I belonged there, as opposed to where I was with Rita and Jamie. Those people all had their normal parents, both of them. They lived in a more prestigious part of the neighborhood, as opposed to where I live now. And I didn't know the difference. I didn't know that this was higher crime rate or anything like that. I was a little kid. Well, about a week goes by and we haven't done anything special. We haven't gone anywhere or had any quote unquote fun, but that didn't bother me at all. I got to go home. I got to go to school. I got to complete my day at school, have fun, and come back and be with my mom and watch TV. And I was content. I was a happy kid. I didn't need to ride dirt bikes. I didn't need to go out to the lake and get on a boat. I didn't need all these things that Rita and Jamie were trying to offer me to make me happy as a kid. I wanted connection. That's what I needed. That's what most kids need, especially now being a dad. Like, you have to connect with your kid and then they'll be happy. That's what they want. They want to know that they matter to you, not just throw things at them. But I was happy with my mom. We stayed in that townhome for about a year. I turned 13 years old and we moved over to a single family residence and I started going to junior high. I did so good with my mom in school and that year that I was able to go back to regular school. I wasn't in second chance school anymore. So I went to a normal junior high school where Gordon was and Robbie, because they weren't little bad kids like me. They got to stay in the normal school. So I was excited. I'm still on cloud nine. I'm doing good. I'm going to junior high now. I feel like a big boy, 13 years old. I'm on my way to becoming a man. At least that's what I thought. And then everything changed one day. It was summer right before I started junior high. And my dad was walking by. And I didn't know. I'm out there playing. I'm out there playing with my buddy Gordon. Right before summer, I told him, I get to go back to normal school, man. We can hang out together. Well, we're outside playing, and my mom comes running out of the house, literally running at me. Steven! She's screaming. And I'm like, Mom, what's going on? Mom, what's going on? Come here. So, okay. Come on, Gordon. We got to go over there. So we're running over there, and she tells me I need to go inside. Did that man say anything to you? And I'm like, who? What man? And there's this dude walking down the road, long hair, big, tall, white guy. And I'm like, no, why? And she's like, because that's your dad. Get your butt in the house. So I went in the house, and now I'm peeping through the window, right? I want to see what's going on. Well, he keeps walking. He didn't say anything to me, and then she yells, right? I didn't know what she yelled. I just know she's yelling. It must have been his name. I have no idea. But anyway, he turns around, and then she's kind of leaning over the fence, screaming at the dude, who happens to be my dad. And he comes back and they're talking. And then all of a sudden, 15 minutes later, she tells me to come back outside. So I come outside. I walk up to the gate and she tells me this is my dad. So I was like, hi, Dad. Where have you been? I didn't know what else to say. I was a kid with the filter, right? No kids have filters. So I asked him, where have you been? What have you been doing? I wanted to talk to my dad. I heard so much about him and how he was a good fighter. I had so many questions, and he was a big dude. He's 6'2", 240 pounds. He's a big white dude with long hair. He's got that mustache to where he looks like he's some type of Harley Davidson dude. I was ecstatic. I'm telling my buddy Gordon how good of a fighter he is. And I was happy. Well, my dad was still an addict, and I didn't know it. So eventually he started slowly coming over once a month on the weekend and cultivating that relationship with me and my mom. And once I started my junior high school year, which was approximately like a month and a half later, right before Christmas, he was kind of coming every weekend, spending time with us. He would buy food. He would try to, spend money on us and take us places to the movies, to bowling, etc., trying to basically swoon my mom over and me by paying for these things. And by the end of the school year, by the end of that semester, my dad ended up moving in. And that's what ultimately was the downfall for my mom. She was sober that whole time, but he wasn't. In February of that next year, he got her back on drugs. And that's when my whole life started to change again.